Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. It is a privilege to introduce this session on Excel tools for tax audit, organized by the Karnataka State Chartered Accountants Association. This session holds special significance as it is the very first program of the newly formed Artificial Intelligence and Technology Committee. This subcommittee of KSCA is the brainchild of our current president, Vijay Kumar Patil, and also the subcommittee chairman, CA Vishrant BL, who are both technology enthusiasts. It also aligns with the current theme of the new committee, which has been formed for KSCA, which is basically AI Ignite. Coming to the session, the current session, which is being led by CA Venugopal Gella, who is who does not need a lot of introduction, who has already established his name in the field of technology for chartered accountants. Let me give you a brief introduction for people who are probably tuning in to listen to him for the first time. So CA Venugopal is a highly accomplished chartered accountant securing an All India 45th rank in his CA final exams. He's the founder partner of Messrs. Venu and Vinay Chartered Accountants, and is also a certified information systems auditor. In addition to his professional qualifications, he has completed a one-year course in data analysis and business intelligence from IIM. With a wealth of experience in indirect taxes, particularly GST, Venugopal has been a co-opted member of the Indirect Taxes Committee at ICI. He's a renowned speaker on technology and its implementation challenges in GST, and has authored industry-specific handbooks and contributed to the technical guide on GST audit by ICAI. He has developed various Excel-based tools for GST, making tax compliance simpler and more efficient for professionals. Venugopal has also been instrumental in the development of e-invoice systems alongside GST and NIC, and has hands-on experience in coding with Visual Basic, R, and Python. His expertise in both tax and technology makes him the perfect speaker for today's session on Excel tools for tax audit. Welcome you, sir. Welcome to this particular session, and I leave the stage open to you.
Thank you very much, sir. And very happy to be here amongst the members. And this being the tax audit session, I'm sure everyone are eager to look at various aspects of the tax audit. And let me tell you that today's session is more to do with Excel and how we use the Excel in day-to-day aspects of our life. Along with me, if someone wants to also experience like how this happens, I would also be sharing some links and certain tools in the chat as it comes. Feel free to open one Tally data, because most of the session I'll be working on Tally, and also one Excel. Just keep it handy so that you can also work. Let me share the screen. Wherever you get a doubt, feel free to interrupt and ask your questions. Put your questions in the Q&A section or the chat. I would be monitoring both, no worries. Let's start. What I will be covering today, we have an hour, 1 hour time. So I'll also spend on the Q&A at the end. So by 6, I'll complete the session. Then we will spend on the Q&A and various other aspects. Let's start with the Excel and the tax audit. See, we all know the time limits of the tax audits from last couple of years has been not been extending. However, the turnover limit has got extended, so the number of audits kind of reduced. But our responsibility is definitely increasing with the change in the form, content of the form, and the accuracy and completeness which they're expecting. The challenge that we have is volume of the client data is increasing. The team who is handling year over year, the team is changing. Every year we get a new team, and some of them are hands-on with the tools, some of them are not hands-on with the tools. most of the processes internal in the CA office are still not, are kind of not documented. Though there's a set process, but it is not documented. This is how we will be doing it. The tools that we use are also kind of limited. These are the challenges that we are facing today. What is that we should look at? Why Excel? Honestly, I would always restrict people that Excel should be used as a quick calculator. Today being Excel session, I am taking some tips of the Excel, but in today's era, I am the biggest advisor of using softwares, and we should move away from Excel for data preparation. Excel has to be used for presentation because there are tools that are available to churn the data. In fact, one of the motto of every tool, BI tool, is to say a simple statement that please torture the data till it speaks. So that means every information which is presented should be valuable. It's not the data that is important. Why Excel? Excel is something is like anytime you can adopt and go on. It can organize large data sets seamlessly. You don't need to know the knowledge of Power Queries or some data tools. It does the calculations. And if some you have repetitive steps, it's a simple macros that are there, you will be able to do it. And all the calculations, the variations that are going to happen is automated. What I'm going to cover in today's session is some functionalities on data import, very key important formula and functions, pivot tables, some portion of conditional formatting, data validation, macros, a little insight. This is what I'm going to cover in today's session, correlating with how the information that is required for the tax audit that we will be able to take or we will be doing. And I am a man of automation. I strongly believe in automation. To the extent I would say the automation is, if you are preparing a tax audit report, the name of the client to whom you are preparing should not be keyed in by you. It should be coming from the source data. I believe that the error is human. You and I, when we are doing the work, the chance of we making error is 100%. When you are reviewing, you will find mistakes of others. When someone reviews us, they will find a mistake of us. That is why the role of the auditor. Auditor's job is to check where the mistakes are happening and how do we set right. Today, it is not expected that someone is doing frauds and we are there to find fraud. These are the set rules. Everything has to be within the rules. Are they there? Not there. If they're not there, it's not that someone intentionally violating, someone do not know, or someone had erroneously posted one entry into another ledger. Today, we will see how do we capture it. First and foremost, data import and export in Excel is pretty easy. It's like a breeze. From any accounting software, from Tally to SAP to Oracle NetSuite, you can get the data, transform the data. You should have the knowledge of Power Queries. You need to know the SQL queries. When the data is processed, churned, it is there in your native Excel. What you are sharing to the client should be only the shareable format and not full working of the Excel. So you should also know that out of say 70 sheets that you have, only 2 sheets you want to convert and share it to the client. How do we do it? We will look at that. There are SQL queries. You can talk to Tally by writing the SQL queries. You should have the ability to split the data from CSV files and text files. At this point, let me stop the presentation and switch to the software Tally. All right. So I have a simple Tally data with me. I'm sure everyone have a Tally. So here is one simple Tally data. I want you to know that there are something called select queries. There are select command that are there in the Tally. In the control panel, which is calculator panel, you can see there are some queries that are written. I am putting one query called select star from company. Select star from the company. For the ease people who are working, you can also look at it. I have put the command in the chat box. You can copy it and do it. And as we do, let me also create one. Our queries. Okay, I will share you the same. I am sharing you a link. Maybe you can keep this link open. I'll come to it as and when needed. So all right, so I've just segregated into two sections, Power Queries and SQL inside the Tally. And let's look at this query, SQL inside the Tally, select star from company. This is the first query which I have shared you here. I'm sure most of you have got this Excel, this on the screen. You can simply export it, current report, and you can export it into an Excel. I'm just saying export to Excel. So it is generating one simple Excel. What does this contain? It contains a lot of information about the company that has been created. It contains the information. Let me open the Excel and transpose it for the easy reference. Here is the file. So you can see this is the file that got opened. Now it is running from column AA up until column OO. So it is like you will not be able to get it. So you can transpose the data. What I did, I have copied the data. You can transpose Alt E. You have a paste special. You can right click, you get this paste special. In the paste special, there is a function called transpose. As I'm doing the session, I will be explaining about other formulae. I wanted to make note of it. Now you can see there are a lot of information that is there. So all the columns that you have seen, the 407 column fields are visible here, right? So now I want to know the TAN number. So you can see there's a dollar that is indicating that is what this is field value, field it refers to. Okay. So you have various information that is there. All this information you can see yes, no, everything. Now, let me go to Tally, and now I'm changing the command in the Tally. I am now saying select the TAN number from company. So you can see on the screen, top right, the TAN number has come. So there are a lot of information that you can get. You will be getting it here. So along with me, open an Excel. How do we get this in an Excel? I am also introducing to you Power Queries so that these are very powerful. Earlier, we used to tell macros. Microsoft has introduced M scripting, Microsoft scripting language. It is called M language. Now, in your data tabs, you have queries and connections. You can click on it. Like how you have Alt F11 if you want to have a shortcut, you can press Alt F12. Alt plus F12. Let me use this. And feel free to interrupt by questions if you have anything. Put it in the chat. So Power Query window, the shortcut is Alt F12. You can automatically come. Yeah. Here is the Power Query window. You can go to the new source, other sources, and you can start with a blank query. By the way, you have there are a lot of information, lot of things. We are just starting with a simple one. On the left side of it, you have the queries. How many queries I have written? Right now, I'm writing only one query. It is coming as query. I can just please always rename your queries so that you will understand how to use those queries. Right now, I'm saying basic company info. I want a basic company info. I am putting it. You can type the query here, or you can also see a section called Advanced Editor. In your home button, in the second tab, you can see Advanced Editor. Whenever I am writing query, I always tell people write the query in the Advanced Editor. It's easy that you will be able to know what you are doing. What does this Advanced Editor do? It will allow you to take the query in a larger way. It is asking you, let what the application do in where, and once I do, where do I give the results in? So it is let the source and in. So for the ease, one of the sheet which I have given to you, there is something called get basic information about the company. So I am copying this query. Okay. You can copy this query from here. We have seen select dollar name from the company. If you are doing from the Power Query, you should copy the thing from let here. I'm sure most of you are able to access this because I can see that a lot of people logged in. So you are able to see this. So all that you will do is you will just copy this and come to your advanced editor. You can just remove this and put it and say done. So automatically it connects and it is showing. Now, right now it is showing evergreen. I was just working on that company. I can just do a refresh. It will show the new thing. And I will say close and load. So automatically it closes and loads into a new sheet called basic information. It's now loading into a new sheet called basic information. Let's say I want to know the TAN, PAN, SIN, everything of the company, right? Now, let's also open the Evergreen for the sake of that. If there are two companies or two clients you are working, now we can see I've opened the second one. I am all that I am doing is coming to the table, right click and hitting this refresh button. Now, can you see the second data has also come? So Tally has now talking to Excel is now talking to Tally. And all your working papers will be correlated to this, which one you are working on. Yeah, I can always say that, okay, you have given me the basic company name. Can you give me the other details? What do you want the other details? Let's go back to Excel. In the company features list, let's say you want the mailing name. Most of the time, if you see in the tally, here, it is written as Evergreen Limited 2225, right? But when it came to Excel, when the information got transposed to Excel, The company formal name is also Evergreen 22 Limited 2025. Let us change this. I am altering this and I am saying this is Evergreen Micro Labs Services Limited. This is the actual name. All right. Now I have changed the company name. All that I do now is I just come and put a refresh here. You can see it has changed to Evergreen Micro Lab Services Private Limited. Now I want to get the address. Okay, let me get the address. Where is the address field? If you go back to our Excel, sorry, if you go back to our Excel, there at the end there is an address, address 1, address 2, address 3. So you just need to copy the same field, and on the right side there are multiple ways you can edit. You can just come, don't do anything, you just hover over it, entire screen is coming. You can just hit the edit button. You're back here in the Power Query editor. You're back in the Power Query editor. Now select this, go to the advanced editor, and we got company name, basic name, the GUID. GUID is the unique name of the tally. I want the address 1, comma, address 2. I want the address 1 and address 2, right? And done. If you can see, the name and address is automatically populating. So I just hit the close and load button. So whenever the tally is synced, you can automatically see the address has come. So the point I want to drive is whichever the tally data you're working on, keep the tally and Excel as kind of mirror replica. You can set up your screen, you can set up everything. So here in after, so let's say if you are preparing balance sheet, what you're doing is you are preparing balance sheet. Of. Now the balance sheet of can be this. Now, when the company change, tally data is changed, some refresh happened. You can, by the way, you can set the, once the connections are done, you can remove the connections, we can remove the queries, but it is now linked. So you are seeing a right data, updated data. So you are not doing any mistakes. This is how you will establish the data connection. Satya Prabhat Anand is saying that in my tally, other columns are not coming. Please explain again how all different columns will come. Okay. So in your tally, the other columns are not coming because you are in the Power Query, you are using this command of the small one. You were using only select. This one, when you use this command, you will only be getting the name. If you have to get all the fields, all you have to do is instead of select $name, you press select star from the company, then you will be getting all the fields. Hope this answers your query. Let's move on. So the first and foremost is when you are working with the Excel, you have to be a pro in getting the data and pushing the data. Okay, I'll come to other features as we proceed. Other things that you should be also knowing is some critical formula, some ifs, VLOOKUP, if function, date function, and rounding off the information. These are an essential Excel. I'm not going to go over it now, but as and when we go, we will see. But these are very essential that you need to know in Microsoft Excel. If any one of you don't know any of this formula specifically in the chat, put it. I'll ensure that I'll cover by the end of the session. But knowing the sum if and sum ifs, VLOOKUPs, HLOOKUP, today's date, XLOOKUP, if function, date function are very essential whenever you are working with Excel. Next important thing you should know in Excel is pivot tables. Next important thing that you need to know is pivot tables. Pivot tables helps you to summarize the data in very quick way. I'm going to work on clause 34, clause 44. How do we get the information from tally? and how do we prepare the financials by monthly, yearly, we will look at all those things. When this data comes, how quickly, easily we will be able to generate is also an important. To give you a management information, knowing pivot tables is must. Without pivot tables, then we are kind of lost in analyzing the data. Data is like I wanted to get. Data has no value if it is not talking to you. If anyone is seeing some numbers and that same number doesn't talk, then you're not giving a right information. So someone was asking about VLOOKUP. Don't worry, we will cover that. Then conditional formatting. When you are presenting it in a report, highlighting the totals. If there are some duplicate values coming, just flagging off those entries that are coming duplicate, or if it is like an outlier. Today we are presenting the numbers in hundreds, thousands, lakhs. You don't know whether which number is bloating up, which is not. You want to highlight numbers which are looking off, you can do it. You can easily give the management information just by within the information in the cells by visualizing and making the interpretation very easy. So I'm going to walk you on the conditional formatting. Lastly, on the data validations. Some places where you will ask the team to do a data entry. Whenever the data entry is being done, at those places, if you're not putting a data validation, the errors could happen. The number can come in the date format, a text can come in the number format, a number in hundreds could have gone into lakhs, or you have a standard format of balance sheet and the P&L. You don't want someone to type telephone charges, you want them to type either communication cost. You don't want someone to type office maintenance, you want it to be putting under repairs and maintenance. So you want a specific data to come when users are creating a data drop-down list. So you want specifically values inside that only should be coming. You can use that to prevent the errors. Standardizing and putting a consistent data entry, you will be using data validation. Macros and VBA, I will be touching at the end. If need be, a simple function I'll explain, but they are the one other powerful source. But today with Power Query, you can do many. Let me start with one simple case study in analyzing the ledger, importing the data from the accounting software. How do we use the pivot tables for summarizing it? Second case study I'll be doing is financial statement preparations. We will use the VLOOKUP. Someone was asking VLOOKUPs. We will be using pivots and slicers. These are the two case studies that we will be using. Index match, Raghavendra is saying more versatile. We can use the index match along with of VLOOKUP. I will be explaining that. Let's start with my second case study. Then I'll come to the first case study. So for the second case study, again, I will be using the next Power Query, which is yearly trial balance. For the ease of you, I have prepared all the query and I have typed it and kept it here. Ledger details, I'll come, that's the third case study. I will use this. All that you will do is you will just copy this. Now, for the use of the people, okay, let me take a fresh Excel. All right, so I will start with a blank Excel. Now, this is the blank Excel. I am saving this file name and let me put it into our folder where people can use. I'll save this as financial report. So we just created one blank Excel. There's nothing, there is only sheet one, no information in this. We can start with that basic information. I can fetch the query one as the company information. I will go to the next one. Again, how do we go to the Power Query? Alt F12, you are into your Power Query editor. So I am adding a new query. I am saying that new source in the starting at the home, new source, other source, a blank query, a blank query. So let me change, rename it, my query name as FS preparation, and let me go to the tally. Let me shut one tally data. So ease of it, you will understand this. Now, in my advanced editor, I'm just going step by step and I'm doing in very slow way. So you can also, I'm sure the session is recorded. Otherwise, you can ask me at a later date. All that I have done is in this section, I just did one simple copy paste and I have pasted it here. Over the time, I have edited the query. Whatever is important, I have kept it. Whatever doesn't need commented. And I've added additional columns for our ease of reference. I'm just hitting this done. You can automatically see a data set has come. And I'm just saying close and load. I'm just saying close and load. What it has done is it has prepared the entire trial balance, the ledger name. It brought me the ledger parent and the primary group. Then I have added another field called is revenue. Well, is it a revenue item or not a revenue item? If it is a revenue item, you can see as one. If you see, when I say revenue is a P&L item, you can see it as one. If it is balance sheet item like fixed assets, let me zoom it little. If it is balance sheet item, fixed assets, it is showing as 0. Indirect expenses is 1. I also brought it whether it is deemed positive or no. Generally, all my in the tally data, all the debits would be under as minus value, credits would be with a plus value. So deemed positive, I have to deem it to be positive if it has to be a debit. So I have brought even this column. Then I brought opening balance, net debit, credit, and closing balance. After this, I have manually created whether it is an asset or an expenditure. How did I create this? Let me go back to the query and let me edit the query and I will show you how all this has happened. You can see on the right side of this, on the right side of the screen, it is showing some applied steps. That means something it has done. Basically, I have queried a URL and I bought some, I given to date and from date and this is the source that has come. From this source, there was nothing. At this point, there was nothing. It stopped at closing balance. I have applied the other additional, I have inserted additional steps. On the right side of the screen, you can see AILE. So there is one small gear button. If I click on the gear button, you can see what is this query that I have written. I've written if it is revenue, then deemed positive, that means it is assets. So if it is revenue 0, that means not revenue item, balance sheet item. Deemed positive 1, that means it's a debit. So that means it is asset. It not revenue, not deemed positive, liability, revenue. So I've written one simple query and basis the query, all the other fields that got populated. In fact, finally, I've also filtered. I have filtered that if the closing balance is not 0, I've just applied one more last filter. If the closing balance is not 0, I didn't want to all the ledgers. So it has only populated only 875 rows. If I put, let's say 0.1, okay. I don't think there is any ledger with that. So it has like 1000 plus rows it has populated. I am just saying, okay, close and load. So automatically all the data is now getting loaded, right? So now you can see that we have added a raw data. What I will do is I will select this data. This is a table. How do you know the table? As I am going down, you can see the headers instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 A, B, C, D column names. You are seeing the name of the header. Always, whenever you are using a data table, it's recommended that you name the data table also and name the range. Now, this is data table is financial statement preparation. Okay. I am using this data table name for creating the pivot tables. The advantage of working with the named range, whenever the data increases, decreases, it would work accordingly. Let's start with preparing a simple pivot table. I am saying Alt DP insert pivot table basis the existing database. Instead of giving the range, I am giving the table name. I'm giving the table name. It is going to understand that, and I'm just saying finish, go ahead and finish. Now I will get the primary group in my rows, closing balance in my values. Under the primary group, I am bringing what is the parent, what is the name, and on top of it, whether it is an asset or a liability item. So everything has come. Pivot table is that simple, drag, drop. Okay. Always right click and collapse all, collapse the entire field so that you are seeing the least possible information. Whenever you are working with the pivot tables, I would always suggest use slicer on the top of the screen in the pivot table, and it's like you will select the pivot table. Just notice what's happening on my Excel. The moment I select pivot table, there are two tabs additionally coming on the right. When I'm coming outside the pivot tables, it is going out. So I'm here in the pivot table, analyze the pivot table. I'm saying insert the slicer. I'm inserting two things, whether balance sheet P&L or and assets and liabilities. I'm inserting two slices. It's always to see the slicers in a better way. Let me insert two rows. So I'm converting this slicer instead of one column. Let me make two column slicer here and put it to one color here and bring it here. And this slicer, I am making it into a 4-column slicer. Here we go. All right. So I'm just clicking balance sheet. Let me take it to a comma style. It's for ease of understanding. One thing, whenever you are working with the pivot tables, you do not want the pivot tables to dance as you change. Always, like how in VLOOKUPs, we freeze the data. In pivot tables, go to the options and this uncheck auto fit column width on update. Every time when you are expanding, changing, it will keep moving out. Remove that. So if I select P&L also, my column doesn't change. Now you can see my expenses are in minus, incomes are in plus. Likewise in balance sheet, assets are in minus and your liabilities are in plus. This is how it functions. The moment when I select balance sheet, you can see expense and income are graded out. Like you do not have any values. You only have values for assets and liabilities. So you can see that these two are highlighted. When I selected the P&L, automatically expense and income got highlighted and they have occupied the first preference. This is how this works. Any one of you have any doubts in this? Someone joined late, not able to see the Google Doc link. I'm pasting the Google Doc link here again. Okay, Rahul wants to look at the slicer once again. Let's look at the slicer, no worry. Chandrasekhar, yeah. Slicer is pretty simple. Let me just show you. Don't worry. I'll show the slicer. Okay. Now, this you always need to have, ledger mapping with how you are going to map this in your schedule 3. How are you going to map this in your IT returns? You definitely need to have a grouping sheet, ledger grouping sheet. So I have prepared one ledger grouping sheet. Let me just share. So I said what our initial grouping was here from Tally. If the name was ABC, under Tally, it was under this data or in this, that's how it is there in Tally. But how do you want to see it into your schedule 3? So in your schedule 3, you need to do a one-time mapping. Okay, this ledger name in schedule 3, I want it to come as group under other expense, communication, trade payables, whatever. Against each thing, you need to have a grouping. And this is one-time activity, and you can keep on increasing with the new ledgers that are coming in. So I'm again making this. I am making this as I'm just selecting this, and I've just changed it. I've created a name called schedule 3 map. By the way, every time, anytime, whenever I'm working, I always work with formulas, name manager. You create a name for the data that you are working. It looks very bad referring to sheet 1, CT2, E11 doesn't really mean what someone is talking, right? So like if you see this, what very bad of this is, I don't know what is sheet 1 and sheet 2. You should never have it. You should rename it is pivot of TB. What is sheet 1 is nothing. Remove it. So FS preparation, this is your TB data. So you can change this. Okay, my Excel is crying now. Let me close some of the things which I'm not using. No. So we've prepared the pivot. Now, what I will do in my trial balance, I am going to insert 2 new columns. I am going to insert 2 new columns. I will say schedule 3 main and schedule 3 subgroup. I'm going to say schedule 3 main and schedule 3 subgroup. I have schedule 3 mapping here. So in my trial balance, I am going to say VLOOKUP. People were asking, someone was asking VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP is nothing but vertically looking up something. HLOOKUP is horizontally looking up something. What I want to look, I want to look this ledger name. Where do you want to look? So that is comma. And you can see here table array. My table array, I am not going to anywhere and give the array. I have already typed some name as schedule 3, the whole data set. I'll just press F3 and it will say that, okay, yeah, you have schedule 3 map. I'll say, okay, take that. And in that, which column I want? Second column for my, sorry, second column for my, the parent. And I want an exact match. So give me an exact match. All right. So, all right. So there is, okay. I've actually deleted the closing balance as 0. So let me also remove for a moment in the query. So for the ease of it, I've just created the schedule 3 list. So in my filtered row, let me filter it. Only when there are balances, I am going to take it. So automatically the values wherever the right now closing balance is not there, it is going to kill those lines. So now you can see. So I have the third column. I will give you can see automatically information has come. So in my pivot, I had created this. Let me create one more pivot. So we have, this is what we created, the balance sheet. Now I'm just creating a copy of this and I'm putting it here. But now I want to see how this shows up in schedule 3. So I don't want my primary group and my parent. I want schedule 3 main group and the subgroup. How this is going to show up in my schedule 3 when it is consolidated. Let me collapse entire field. Okay. Looks like schedule 3 main group. And file balance. Is the data coming correctly? All right, so entire file balance is that. Oh, I've just given. If you can see it properly, I have given the schedule at the bottom. Then this should be up. Yeah, perfect. Now collapse center field. So in a quickly, you can see your how the tally is showing and how is it visible in your schedule 3 format. I haven't done anything at this point. I've just prepared one pivot table and I've just mapped. Now you might have your balance sheet format. You will only use one simple VLOOKUP or XLOOKUP format. You will just automatically say that these are the values to come. So I'm saying P&L. You can see my P&L. This is the left side one is tally data. The right side one is the schedule 3 format, how it would look like. So I haven't created any schedule 3 format, but it is just saying this is how it would look like. Someone was asking, how do I create slicers? Let me just delete the slicer and I'm adding one more slicer again. So I'm just selecting this. I'm going to pivot table. I'm saying insert slicer. So where am I going? I'm in otherwise this is there in the insert also, which has a slicer. But go to pivot table. You know that you are using the right one. So go to the pivot table, analyze. In the center, you can see this insert slicer. So all that, which is the slicer you want, you just need to select here. So I want whether it is an asset, income, liability, I want to schedule that. So this slicer, all that I did is instead of it being vertical, I made it to a 4-column slicer and changed it just a little bit formatting. So only for the presentation sake, so that it looks better. Given it. So you can automatically see when I select balance sheet, the balance sheet will show up. When I say P&L, PLN will show up. So in a quickly, you have automatically prepared your data. So we have seen VLOOKUPs, we have seen pivots, we have seen slicers. Now let me come in showing how do I use sum and SUMIFs. In the meantime, anyone has any queries? any queries to anyone, you can put it in the chat. So all the queries that you have asked, we have seen. So let's come to the P&L notes that we prepared. All right. So let me quickly take notes to P&L account, notes to balance sheet, how these notes are prepared, how do we do it? Yeah. So let me insert a sheet. Okay. So I've just brought one simple notes. This is how our generally notes to P&L would look like. Now you have various notes and the note details. Okay. So I've just copied the last year details. Now, how do I get the current year details? Here is where we use that sum if functions. So I'll just say use sum if. Some ifs always is generally recommended. So even though if you have simple one, but always recommended use some ifs. Now I'm taking the sum ifs from the trial balance. I want to take the closing balance. And what is my criteria? My criteria range 1 is the ledger name. If my ledger schedule 3 name subgroup, which we have done, is if this is matching with the variable in my, yeah. So what is my variable? This is the variable name. If this is matching, I'm going to copy. All that I do is I just copy this formula all the way up. So all the way up, you copy this formula. So this, all the values are, boom, it's like it happens automatically. So your financial schedule 3 financial preparations is like easy. You don't need to do anything. It happens automatically. Yeah. So we have seen pivots, we have seen sum ifs, we have seen lookups. Now, how do I rely that this data is correct? It is coming properly. Let me pick one simple thing. Let's see this ledger donation. All right. Now, keep watching. How do we know that this is correct? Let me go to tally. Not sure if there is a ledger by name donation. Yeah, there is one name donation. Now, let's say I am making some one more entry, 18,000. So I'm putting 50,000. Okay, I put 5 lakh. Okay, I put some 5 lakhs as one entry on 4th July 2023. Okay, so that means my profit will go down by 5 lakhs. And let me, so 5 lakh 18,000 is your donation value. So here is your financials which you have prepared. This financials that you have prepared is going to become a dynamic. Your trial balance is linked with the query. All that you will do is you'll just right click and you will hit this refresh button. So your entries, audit entries, everything has done. You come back to your notes. This is notes. You come back to your notes. You can see your profit is refreshed. Everything is automated. This is like completely automated and it's done. So you don't need to be worried whether if some entries have been posted, is my financials the right version or not a right version? You don't need to be worried. So this is how you would link. The next thing, the case study which I want to talk is getting the ledger vouchers, which is required for clause 34, clause 44. I have prepared another Power Query, small query here. So you can just again copy this query. So like I can see a lot of people are accessing here. There are 39 viewers live copying this. Pretty good. If you can work together, I think great like that. So let me close all the files now. Let me open one new file. And as usual, go to your Power Queries, Alt F12, go to new source, other source, create a blank query. If you feel that I'm a little fast, feel free to ask, because like we only have less time. The Excel is like an ocean. I'm only trying to cover certain simple important things. I'm again taking this query which is written here. Some of them wanted that copy of the query. So I am putting the query link in the chat again. So someone wants freeze pivot. Yeah, I'll show you freeze slices, freeze pivot. So I have entered, I'm not sure which is the query I have. So let this query be, let me go to advanced editor. So walk you through the query. Okay, here I have given the ledger name cash. There are no cash transactions in this tally data. Let me go to ledger name TDS. Exact name I'm picking. So all that you need to do is you change the ledger name here. Just zooming a little bit so that it is visible. So in the ledger name, you said from where, what is the ledger name? 1st April 23, from 1st April 23 to 31st March 24 is what you want to get the data in, and you say done. Now you can see automatically all the entries of that ledger has come. So where you have deducted TDS, and who is the party for which you have deducted, whether it is professional charges, you can see I was like capturing, I want party name, I want the professional charges and how much TDS is deducted. So I wanted all that in one go. So you can just set close and load. And by the way, I can segregate into separate columns there, but I'll show you here also. Let the data get loaded. Since I've listed a whole 1 year data, it is taking a little time, but even a large volume data, which is around 40,000, 50,000 transactions, it doesn't take more than 2 minutes. So that's all the time it takes. And the best thing, once the query is done, so you can always refresh. Okay, so I want to know, so I will use vendor name, expense name. This order I have given. I will say text split. I want to split this text. I want to split the text into columns. My delimiter is comma. There is something in the don't worry. Let me yeah, there is no information. Now we can use text split. In case if it's not happening, there are other methods. Don't worry, you can just So you can see the vendor name and expense name. You can just simply do a pivot of this. So in pivot is Alt DP, insert pivot table, and you now know against which is the expense, which is the vendor, how much is the TDS that is done for you want to download cross reference the traces file and check it. You can automatically do it. In fact, we also have primary group, other ledgers. We can easily bring in, roll it up and get it into a bigger way. Now you can see there are multiple lines coming in. With the pivot tables, you should also know in the field settings, you can go to a tabular form and repeat the items. Now you can see the data is in most possible way. So against each expenditure, my cab charges paid to which vendor. So against each thing, you have got all the information like on a click of a button. You have got all the information that you needed, right? In otherwise, what people do is like if you have to do, I will be going to ledger TDS. Let me take 1 month and Alt F1, do it into detail, export this into Tally. Let me export this into Tally, the ledger vouchers. Uh, by the way, what we are currently doing in Excel also is not like a pretty bad thing. You can do it. It's like, but it is going to take a longer time. First, this export I've only done for a month. Look at the screen. I've only done for a month. This itself will take more than a minute. There I have done for the full year, all the details. But here only for 1 month, it is going to take long. And after that, you have to do cutting it into different things. All those effort you will be making by yourself. But by writing the Power Queries or writing a queries, joining them, you are getting the information in a much faster way. For your clause 34, clause 44, you need the GST by vendor, by expenditure. But now with the query, in one go, you have got with how much is the vendor, how much TDS you have done, and how much is the expenditure. The same way how I have done the TDS ledger, I can do the GST ledgers. So you are going to get it in a much faster way. But look at it, if you in a normal way, if you have to do this in an Excel, the first and foremost thing that you will have to do in cleaning up this is you will have to so in cleaning up this, you'll have to first make sure the data is in proper, because you have all the information in a cluttered way. You don't have it in a columnar way. So now you have to replace this, is all these as per details, is your TDS deducted. You will have to replace. Then you have to fill the date, wherever the date. Okay, by the way, whenever that Dali data is exported, some cells will be merged. You need to know unmerge them. So you have to apply filter. Now wherever the date is not there, you will unselect. So this cell is A2. So you will copy this values all the way down. By the way, there are multiple ways of achieving the one result, but you will have to do all the circles. Now you will fill the voucher number, then you will transpose, you will have to end up doing that circus. So when you use the additional advantage of the queries, these are going to help you automatically. Okay. I have not spoken on macros. Macros will be helping you to reduce the repetitive functions, but they are really powerful too. Okay. Certain best practices, I would say always keep the data secure. Make sure every Excel file is password protected. Keep version control. If some of you are not using any office management software, I would suggest use an office management software and start uploading the files. Client communication, keep it there. Have the audit trails. Certain common things in Excel that you need to be worried is double check the formulas. Sum if formula, whether you have given to the right sheet. Some have you included the everything. Sometimes you would have done a cross-referencing. Somewhere in the corner of the left, it is saying a circular reference. You don't know what it is circular reference. You have to navigate to all the data. If you are not protecting the data, people will edit it. So you should have an ability to protect certain cells and unprotect certain cells to get the data, right? So these are the common things which I wanted to tell. And I would end up with the session again saying that you'll always depend on, there are external paid tools that are available. Use those tools. These tools are going to significantly reduce the work. If you are like surprised to see in the Power Query, you got your financial statement like this, trust me, it is only 1% of the result which a tool can do. A tool can do much more things than what you are thinking of. Data formatting, analysis is all of the tools. That is not our job. Our job is of analysis. So if you can buy some paid tools, use those tools, they are going to ease your life. In fact, we part of developing this tool, Tally on Wheels, we use that. Always, I suggest that one has to use some or the other tools, right? So as I said, I would conclude my session in 1 hour and give more time for you to ask the questions in whatever that I have done. And in case if something additional thing which I have not done, you want me to show, I am going to look at it. Okay. All right. With this, leaving back to the host on the Q&A.
Hey, thank you, Venu Gopal, for the brilliant summary and the quick session on Excel audit tools. I'll just have a look at the Q&A and let you know if there are any open questions. So there are no open questions. So I think whoever has to have asked any doubts has already addressed these doubts as part of the chat session. One question has come up just now from Irin Sara. So he or she seems to be asking, how do we get the input URL?
Input URL, I really don't know which place which I was talking input URL. Irin Sara, if you can ask this question again, it would be better.
Yeah, we'll skip to the next one. Where to find Tally on Wheel and TCAT?
Okay, anything, first you should know anything you don't know, you have to go to Google. All right, Google is the thing. By the way, let me just show one Google to you. Right. So let's say, like first time you are hearing the Power Query. What is the shortcut to open Power Query in Excel? You ask it. It is going to tell, like as I said, Alt F12. Look at it. It is going to say, right? Likewise, you want to know Tally on Wheels software. So you type this, you are going to get it. So anything that you don't know, you have to ask. In our life, we somehow hesitate in not asking it. And I am the always biggest preacher of, I advertise saying that buy tools, invest on tools. Your time is very precious. You shouldn't waste your time in preparing some report. You should invest your time in analyzing the reports, right? Yeah, for those, the Power Query thing, this link which is missed or not there, again, I am putting it in the chat. You can copy it. I have whatever the required for the tax audit. I have analyzing your class 44, getting the data, TDS analysis, TDS reporting. You can do using ledger queries, preparing financials. You will be using the trial balance. You can do monthly, quarterly. You can repeat those things. Getting the company any information, I've just given these Power Queries, you can do that. Yeah.
The next question, Mr. Venu, is on they're again asking with respect to, I think Iren Sara is continuing her question on how do we get the input URL? Sir, the Word document links is the reference that the person
Yeah,
has
I've shared. It's not a Word, it's a Google document link. I have pasted it in the chat.
Okay, cool. So did you address the question on where to find Tally on Wheels and TCAT?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And sir, this link can be used to generate any data from Tally.
Yes. It's like right now, this link which I have given, I in the Excel which I have used, I have taken a blank Excel and I have used it. So it is available. It's like you work on any Tally, it is there.
Got it. Cool. Any other questions from any of the audience here? All right. We will move
There
ahead.
is one question, Chinmay
Sure.
Hegde is, my understanding is Power Query is for data processing and Power BI is for dashboard. Is there any use case of Power BI used for tax audit, GST and stat audit? Chinmay, I would put it this way. Power BI is definitely for your management reporting. Now, after the stat audit, what is that you are discussing with the client? That is more important. You are going to discuss with the client on the profit for this year is, let's say, at 20%, while the profit of the previous year is 18%. Sales has increased by 20%, while expenses has increased by 18% in line with the inflation. But if you have to talk to the client, last year your retainer revenue was 80% and one-time revenue was 20%. Your top 20 customers were this in last year, top 20 customers are this in the current year. Last year you sold your SKUs in this category so many and this category this many. There is a change in the mix. Your increase in the profit is attributing to this. When you go back to the client, you are spending time in discussing with him about how his business performed this year. The trust the client will have on you is substantially superb different than what it is. Here where your Power BI and other tools can come in, can with the large data, it will give you, churn out this report and give it to you. It's easy for you to go and sit and talk with the client. That is how the Power BI can be used in your stat audits. Raghavendra is asking use cases of full VLOOKUP versus index match versus XLOOKUP. Raghavendra, index match you can always use when you know that there is one dynamism in the data and you want to pinpoint to the exact thing. And in VLOOKUP, the primary condition in a VLOOKUP is the value that you are searching should be at the start field. While in index match, it doesn't need to be at the start field, so you can use that way, Raghavendra. Do I need to change any command in the document so as to get the detailed or to open Tally and plain pasting? Monica, I would say plain pasting in Excel would be enough, sufficient. Just that you should ensure in your Tally. I've just opened the Tally in my F1. You have to see in your settings in the connectivity, just see whether the Tally configuration ODBC is set as yes or no. Just need to ensure. You got to ensure the ODBC should be set as yes. ODBC is open database connectivity between Tally and other applications. So on this port 9000, I am writing to Tally as like Tally is one application. This is another application. We are interacting and getting the data. So if you have, if Monica, if this is working, your Tally would work. Chandrasekhar is asking, is it possible to extract multiple ledgers like how we have shown cash? Oh, perfectly possible, Chandrasekhar. You can loop it. It's like today's session is not at an advanced level, so I have not covered those things. But you can get the group level vouchers. You can give multiple vouchers. In fact, you can give a list of vouchers in an Excel as one column, write a function and pass those parameters to the Power Query and it will loop and get that information. Possible. I'll tell you what is not possible. And I keep telling in various sessions and I really want each one of you to get this, what is not possible. Trust me, what is not possible in the Power Query or an Excel or any tool. is what you cannot imagine. If you can't imagine any report, that's not possible. If you say, I need this report in this fashion, that's possible. And I'm also leaving my email ID. You can feel free to connect to me if something you have lost while doing the things. And I always speak on GST and technology. These are only two things I talk. I have a WhatsApp group for the GST updates. In case if someone wants the tech and GST updates, you can always speak to me. I have answered all the questions in the chat also.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Venugopal, for this insightful session. I will now hand over the mic in a very figurative term to CA Manish Bansali to render the vote of thanks here.
Thank you, Vinitji. Manishi, you're on mute.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Vinay. Thank you, sir. I liked your last line where you told if you can imagine it, you can do it in the tools. And thank you for your wonderful session. And I guess this was a perfect time to have this session. We touched 160 people in the registration, and people stayed till the end. That shows how important it was. And I also thank the committee, AI and Tech committee, for hosting this, and Vinith for handling this beautifully. Thank you, sir. And we will definitely come up with many more sessions like this.
Thank you, KSCA, and thank you, participants.
Thank you, sir.